It's back, the Corporate Transparency Act, or CTA. I've already done 2 videos on this topic, one over a year ago when the act first went into effect, and another earlier this year when a judge in Alabama ruled the CTA unconstitutional, but only for the plaintiffs in that case. And now, a Texas judge has thrown another wrench into the works. If you're an attorney, accountant, or small business owner, this saga is probably giving you a headache. It's definitely giving me one. So let's talk about what happened this time. Hit the like button, subscribe for more, and be sure to share this video around because the big court ruling we're about to discuss today literally affects everyone who owns a business as well as those who help others start those businesses. Before we dive into the court matter, if you've been blissfully unaware of the CTA until now, let me give you a quick summary to catch you up. The CTA is a law that was passed in 2021 with the goal of increasing transparency in business ownership to combat financial crimes like money laundering. It requires certain businesses, mainly small corporations, LLCs, and partnerships, to report detailed information about their beneficial owners to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or FinCEN. This includes names, birth dates, addresses, and even driver's license or passport numbers. For businesses created before January 1st, 2024, the deadline to file these reports was January 1st, 2025. New entities formed in 24 or later must file within 30 days of creation. Are there any penalties for failing to comply? Well, of course there are. There's steep fines, like $500 per day, or even potential imprisonment. I've gone over the nuts and bolts of the CTA in previous videos, which I'll link in the description so you can check those out for more detailed breakdown. But for now, let's talk about why this latest ruling has thrown everything into chaos again. On December 3rd, 2024, Judge Amos Mazzant of the Eastern District of Texas issued a nationwide injunction blocking the enforcement of the CTA and its reporting rule. Essentially, stop, this is not to be enforced anywhere until further litigation. This ruling is a big deal for 2 reasons. First, it halts the upcoming January 1st, 2025 compliance deadline. If your business was scrambling to meet that deadline, you can now take a breath, at least for the moment. Second, the ruling challenges the constitutional authority of Congress to enact the CTA in the first place, citing an overreach of legislative power. Judge Mazzant argued that Congress lacks the authority to impose what he called a federal police power to regulate all aspects of public life. He also took issue with the government's claim that the CTA is justified under the Commerce Clause or the Necessary and Proper Clause. Don't worry, if you didn't take a constitutional law class, all he's saying is that it doesn't appear that Congress has the power to do what they're trying to do, even though the feds argue that Congress does since it's related to commerce, economic activity. To sum it up, Judge Mazzant believes the CTA stretches Congress's power beyond their constitutional limits. What makes this ruling even more significant is, as I've said before, it applies nationwide. Judge Mazzant justified this by pointing out that the CTA affects over 32 million businesses across the country. By granting a nationwide injunction, he effectively paused the enforcement of the act everywhere. Not just for the plaintiffs in this case, as we saw in the earlier limited Alabama ruling. That said, this isn't the end of the story. The Department of Justice is almost certain to appeal this ruling to the 5th Circuit Court of Appeals, and we can expect them to ask for the injunction to be stayed, as in no more injunction, while the appeal is ongoing. Whether the 5th Circuit will act before the January 1st deadline or whether FinCEN will issue its own guidance in the meantime remains to be seen. At the time of reporting, they haven't issued any guidance, but by the time this video comes out, who knows? So stay tuned. If you're a business owner wondering what to do next, here's my take. Pause, but don't forget, FinCEN may issue a statement or interim rule addressing this ruling in the coming weeks, as they did following the Alabama decision earlier this year. Until then, some attorneys are recommending to hold off on filing your beneficial ownership information, but staying ready to act if the situation changes. For me though, I'm more cautious and would recommend just filing anyway and not worrying about non-compliance down the line if you miss the news that the injunction was lifted. Plus, it's not as if the government is wholly unable to collect the information collected by these filings if push came to shove anyway. So I suppose that so long as you're not engaged in any money laundering, you might as well just file, move on with your life, and run your business. This ruling doesn't mean the CTA is dead, it's just on pause. Congress could revise the law, or higher courts could overturn the ruling. Either way, it isn't going away. Now, if you've been following my coverage of the CTA, you might be asking, why is this such a mess? The short answer, this law is both ambitious and divisive. Supporters argue that it's necessary for combating financial crimes and catching bad actors using shell companies, while opponents, including the plaintiffs in this case, argue that the law places an undue burden on small businesses, invades privacy, and exceeds Congress's congressional authority in the first place. And if that weren't enough, the complexity of implementing this law has created confusion for everyone involved. Business owners, attorneys, accountants, and even FinCEN themselves. There's been a boatload of delays just to get to where we're at now. I'll say it again, the CTA is a bipartisan pet project. It's not going away quietly, and it's going to keep popping up until Congress or the courts finds a way to settle this once and for all. This latest ruling is another twist in what's already been a bit of a roller coaster of a legal battle over the Corporate Transparency Act. If you're a business owner, stay informed and be ready to act if and when the situation changes. And if you're an attorney or an accountant, well, stock up on aspirin because this saga isn't over yet. But what do you think about this ruling? Is the CTA an overreach by a Congress run amok, or is it a necessary tool for combating financial crimes? Let me know in the comments below. But for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video with your fellow small business owners, attorney or accountant. I'm Andrew Bethel, YouTube's 456th most popular estate planning attorney, and I'll see you at our next meeting.